So today we're going to do a basic overview of Ascribe Coder, but before we begin I will be going over a quick PowerPoint just so that we're all on the same page with Ascribe Coder, a little bit about what we've been through and where we're going with it. Before I start, I should tell you that I keep everyone muted while we're going through the PowerPoint and the demo. If you have any questions, if anything comes up while we're going through the PowerPoint and the demo, please use the chat in your GoToMeeting dashboard to submit your question or your observation or whatever it is. Also, since today is more of an overview, if you have anything specifically you'd like to see today, you can go ahead and submit that through Julie, and she'll keep in touch. She'll keep in touch with me. She'll let me know if I need to address something as I'm going through. Also, there will be more webinars scheduled. I should have those up by end of day today. They'll be available on the home page, and what I'll be doing is scheduling the March webinars. So be looking for those as well. All right. So just to get started, make sure, here we go. Again, this is the Ascribe Coder webinar. My name is Laura Rice, and I'm going to start out just talking about Ascribe Coder. Ascribe Coder was actually released on September 20th of 2013. And I know this is redundant for some of you, but I have to say it. It is available on our live servers. If you right-click on your questions, on a question today, you can access Ascribe Coder. And it is a viable tool for coding. We hope that everyone is in Ascribe Coder using it and giving us your feedback and making sure that it's, meeting your needs. Ascribe Coder was created to merge the functionality of 4 pages: review responses, the single response coder interface, edit the codebook, and codebook editor preview. As most of you know, codebook editor preview was actually removed from the software when we released Ascribe Coder on September 20th. We'll be talking more about review responses, the single response coder interface, and edit the codebook on the next slide. And I always like to say, I'm asked often, what we did, to create Ascribe Coder. And the development team actually pulled the wish list that our support team maintains and looked for all the requests that pertained to review responses or the single response coder interface and edit the codebook. And they took those wishes or those suggestions and applied them to Ascribe Coder in a generalized way so that we have more tools at our fingertips. Our users group has been key in the development of Ascribe Coder. They've been working, and I should say, just a little plug for the users group. The users group meets the second Wednesday of every month, and it is currently ran by Lisa Hayes. And if you're interested in being involved in our users group, we'll be happy to add you to the distribution list and encourage your participation because the users group, again, they've been key in the development of Ascribe Coder, and they've worked very, very closely with the development team to get Ascribe Coder where it is today. Also, I should say, Ascribe Coder, another reason that that we've pulled these 3 windows into one is so that for multi-browser compatibility. So Ascribe Coder was created to work in Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari on a Mac. All right. Now, a little bit more about Ascribe Coder. There have been a lot of updates to it since the release in September. So for those of you that kind of tested it and looked at it when it was first out of the gates, I really hope that you get back in and give it another go, because you can see version 7.5, the release on November 29th, and then some patches. We've done quite a bit to improve it. And again, most of this is from user group feedback and the feedback that you give in your training sessions, in these webinars, and the feedback you give through support. Okay, so thank you for all of that feedback. Please continue to give it. I'm going to just now move forward to version 7.6 that's scheduled for March of 2014. Version 7.6 is going to see a server-side spell check for Ascribe Coder. Some of you that have been using Ascribe Coder and have noticed that there's no codebook spell check. We're now and actually actively testing the new spell check for Ascribe Coder. And this spell check is actually also available in Edit Responses, Edit Respondent, and the translation transcription windows as well. Okay, so that's scheduled for March of 2014. And then this next point is probably the most important one I'm going to make in this PowerPoint. Version 8, which is tentatively scheduled for June of 2014, is when we're going to remove review responses in the single response coder interface and edit the code book. So that's when those tools will be removed from Ascribe. And Ascribe Coder will be replacing all of those. So it's very important that as you're using Ascribe Coder, if you need to go back to review responses, if you need to go back to the single response coding interface or edit the code book, you need to let us know. You need to let us know why so that we can address it or help you figure out the proper tools to do what you're doing in review responses or the single response coder interface or edit the code book. All right. Version 8.1 we'll see tentatively scheduled for July of 2014. We'll see the introduction of Illustrator for questions that are coded in Ascribe Coder. And then version 8.2, and this is another thing that I added to the PowerPoint because this question comes up a lot. What's going on with Phrase Analyzer? Well, version 8.2, which is scheduled for August of 2014, will introduce the new Phrase Analyzer. Phrase Analyzer is also being rewritten so that it's multi-browser compatible. The development team is currently figuring out just what they're going to do with Phrase Analyzer, if it's going to be still going to be a standalone tool or if it's going to be implemented in the Ascribe Coder interface. And also, for some of you, this next point is important. The merge map capability that's in desktop is supposed to be introduced in August of 2014. And then so that in October of 2014, version 8.3, we can remove desktop, and we're also going to see some ACM updates then. All of these dates are tentative. I just want to make sure that our clients, customers know what's going on with us in Ascribe Coder. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the software. I'm going to navigate straight on over to Supervisor Studies, and you'll notice I am using Google Chrome as I go through this. All right, and today we'll just go ahead and go into our dislikes and choose Ascribe Coder. Again, I am using Google Chrome, and I like to note for those of you that are using Chrome, when you're using Chrome, you do not have access to Phrase Analyzer, Review Responses, or the Single Response Coder interface. Okay? You have to use IE to access those tools. Also in Chrome, we do not have the Excel exports. You have the little Excel icon that exports the tables. Those are still in IE, and they will be coming for Chrome, I believe, in version 8. All right. So now right into Ascribe Coder. Julie, I'm seeing things pop up. Do I need to pause for questions?
No, I think we'll cover it as we go forward, Laura.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Just a little distraction to the side there. All right, so this is Ascribe Coder, and the first thing to point out is that it's very similar to Review Responses. We have our code book over here on the right side of the screen. We'll be returning our responses on the left side of the screen. So this is our code book pane. This is our response pane. Our question information is at the bottom of the screen. If you're showing questions from shared code book, you can move this up and down to resize it. You can also minimize this by hitting the toggle button on the resizer bar. So you kind of determine how your screen is adjusted. You can also use this resizer bar if you've got large responses. You know, you got a larger code book. Again, you control, and these stick for each individual user. So if I move this all the way over here today, log out and come back in tomorrow, I'm going to see it this way again tomorrow. Okay? So the resizer bars allow us to resize, and they stick. You'll notice that there is a toggle button on the code book side. Well, it's for the code book side, and when you hover over it, it says close. What that does is it actually closes the response side of the pane. We've had a few support issues about this, so I thought I should probably address it. So it closes so that you can just focus on editing your code book. To bring it back, you'll notice when I hover over it now, it says Open Pane. You just click it again, and it opens the pane. Okay, so above our response area, and above the response pane, we have our response toolbar. I'm not going to go over everything in the response toolbar today, but these are the tools for our response side, and these are the tools for our codebook side. The important thing to note here is the navigation icon. So moving forward, as Ascribe is modernized, what we're doing, instead of having right-click navigation, you'll notice when I right-click, I do not have any navigation options. My navigation is only accessed by clicking on the navigation icon. Another thing to note is this is also where you will access the help. Our individual pop-ups or dialog boxes will have a little help question mark on them, but if you want the help for Ascribe Coder, you click this and it'll bring up the help. And if you hit Show Table of Contents and you click on Ascribe Coder, these are all the help items. So Ascribe Coder is actually 100% documented at this point in time. We're still figuring out how to organize the help so that it's more helpful or more user-friendly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. I'm going to navigate back into questions for just a second and then come back into Ascribe Coder. Okay, so there we are. I am in multiple response mode right now. I've not done or talked a lot about single response coding mode. I plan to stay mainly in multiple response mode. I will be doing a webinar on the single response mode in March. Okay, so to return responses, you know, in review responses today, we double-click on the question to return responses, or we right-click and choose expression tester. We don't have to do that today. Rather, we just click the search icon, and it brings up our search box. In this search box, I mean, we can keep it up on our page while we're coding, while we're working. And if we want it to work like the regular or the expression tester in review responses, then we toggle on regular expression so that we can actually search. Maybe I want to search for static or winter. So I can search for static or winter. I probably should change my search here so that it returns my coded and my uncoded responses. So now I've got my search so that it's showing me both coded and uncoded. And I want to talk about that for a minute, and just so I'm not confusing people, turn the translation off there. Okay, so the show only box, this is important. When the show only box is blank, it means that we're searching for both coded and uncoded responses, okay? We also have the option for uncoded responses, and then responses with any code applied means coded responses, okay? So those are the things I'm going to talk about. I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that, because it's not real clear to a lot of people that when this box is blank, we're going to be returning both coded and uncoded responses. For us, most of the time, we'll probably have this on uncoded responses, unless, of course, we're quality checking, in which we'll probably be looking for any code applied. Okay. So I've returned some responses, and you'll notice that the words that I've searched for are highlighted in red. Okay? They're only highlighted in red if they're not part of an expression. So notice with winter, winter was part of an expression, okay? And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's okay. I think most of us know what regular expressions are all about, especially if you sat in the regular expression demo that I did. So when I'm looking at my winter code, and let me just see if I can find my winter code over here pretty quickly. I can actually find it. Winter. Okay. When I'm looking at my winter code, you'll notice that there's a regular expression behind it that says winter. Okay. Those regular expressions are at work for us all the time in Ascribe Coder, and it's one of the cool things about it because they actually become a shortcut to applying a code. So this is one way we can apply codes, by clicking on the link. Okay? To delete a code, we can just drag it over and remove it. Or we can right-click and hit remove this code. And if we've got others selected, this code and all selected codes. There's one other way to remove codes. And basically what you would want to do is turn on the Remove Code button. If you turn on the Remove Code button, that allows us to click on the trash can to remove a code. All right? Those are all things that were added as a result of user group feedback. Okay, so what if we want to select a couple of responses and code those? In Review Responses, we would select them and then drag a code over. In this mode, all we have to do is select those responses and then click on the code that we'd like to apply. Okay? So you select them by clicking on them. They turn this, I guess that's like a, I don't know, a peachy orange. You turn them peachy orange, then you click on the codes that you'd like to apply to those responses. So you might ask, well, what does drag drop do? So if I want to drag a code to a response, it's a one-at-a-time coding function. So I'm dragging sticky on hair to this response and dropping it. Notice, it only applied that code to this response. So what that allows us to do is select codes, or select responses, and then click on the code to apply them, but also say, you know what, this guy actually needs not work well as well. So that only applied to this guy. All right? Okay, so yes, we can select responses, click on the codes to apply them. We can drag drop. Also, the drag drop does work. You can drag a code from one response to another to apply it. One other thing that we can do, and I turn this off because I don't use it that often, this drag response to copy coding allows us to drag a single response and apply all the codes that were applied to that response to the response we drop it on. Okay? Again, that is the drag responses to copy coding. So that's an overview of the ways that you can code. Now I want to talk a little bit about the statistics box here at the top above our responses. And Julie, will you give me the heads up when we're 15 minutes out?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so the statistics box actually tells us a whole lot about what's going on over here on the left side of the screen. The first number is the number of responses that we have showing. So I've got 24 responses showing, or the number of responses selected, I should say, over the number of responses that I've displayed. So notice, when I start selecting responses, that number goes up. So now I've got 3 out of 24 responses selected. Okay? So I always know how many responses I have selected. That way, if I've selected one down here at the bottom, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to apply a code here, I'll be like, okay, I have 4 selected. What else do I have selected? Another cool thing about this, if you have a lot of responses up here, you can actually go to your previous selected. It'll take you directly to it. Okay? So we have, and you can actually you can actually go to the next or the previous, at any time. It's helpful when you have a lot of responses. Okay, so I've got 4 responses selected. That means if I click on a code, that code is going to be applied to 4 responses. Well, that code has already been applied to 4 responses. And notice that I've got a little indicator here that tells me I last coded 4 responses. The second number here is the number of codes that are applied to these 24 responses. So I've got 27 codes applied to these 24 responses. And notice when I start selecting codes, they turn that I don't know if that's a minty green. I don't know what color green that is, but they're a nice little green color when you select the codes. It tells you how many codes you have selected. Okay? So that's, again, so if I'm going to, remove this and all selected codes, I'm going to be removing 2 codes. And there we go. All right. So that's the number of codes number of codes selected over the number of codes applied. The filtered tells us just what we've, so it shows us our search, and if we've got a filter in place, it will also show us our filter. So if I am filtering by a question, say I'm filtering by my likes, dislikes question. And when I set a filter, go ahead and do this real quick. There we go. So now I've got 163 responses showing. There are 57 codes applied to these 163 responses. My filter is showing me that I'm filtering by Q76, and I've set the filter as not like at all, like slightly, and like somewhat. I can click on filtered to quickly bring up my filtered icon, my filtered filtering dialog box. And if I want to clear all of my filters, I just click this clear all, and there we go. So if at any point in time, and it's set for your, every time you change a filter or a sort order, you need to search again to apply it. Okay, so anytime that I'm returning responses and it doesn't seem to be returning what I think it should be returning, I want to check and see if I've got a filter. All right. The next little option shows us if we've got a sort. So right now I've got my sort set to show verbatim length and verbatim. And to access sort, well, I didn't even need to click there. I could have just clicked on sorted, and it brings up the little sorting tab automatically in my response filters and sorting. So I've got a ton of sort options. These are things that we've asked for over the years, but depending on your role and what you're doing at the time, you can determine how you want to sort your verbatim. And you can apply a reverse sort if you like. So if I want my verbatims longest to smallest rather than longest to shortest rather than shortest to longest, I can apply a reverse sort. Okay. The other things that we have here, this tells us the number of responses we're showing out of the total pool of responses. So now I'm showing 348 out of 348. But if I do decide again to search for static, go ahead and hit go. Now I'm showing 24 out of 348, okay, which is 6.8% of the responses. Now the next one is the number of study respondents. So there are 1,733 unique respondents in my study, and I'm currently showing 24 of those unique respondents. Okay. I wanted to show one other thing, make sure that I show this other way of coding, and it is the Apply Selected Codes button. This is for targeted coding. I know there are some specific reasons that we might want to do this. When we turn on this Show Response, this Apply Selected Codes button, which I call the target, we can actually choose a number of codes. So in this case, I've got 4 codes selected. It tells me that up here. And then I hit the target to apply those 4 codes. Okay? Now, when you have this target on, you can still code by selecting responses and clicking on a code. Okay? So you need to make sure you know what you're doing here. So selecting responses and clicking on a code is most like what we did in review responses. Okay? This targeted coding actually allows us to select codes and then hit the target. Well, I should probably hit the target to apply those selected codes. Okay? When we're selecting codes, we want to make sure that we're clicking to the outside of the code. where we see the little double arrow. If we click on the code, it's going to apply that code to my selected responses. You'll see it tells me I last coded 3 here. There's a way to get around that. There is an option to add a selection checkbox to your codes, because we've had some people saying, you know, it's really difficult to differentiate between selecting codes and clicking on a code to apply it. So if you turn on the selection checkbox, you can actually click the checkbox to select the codes, and it indicates that you're selecting the codes, and that's the only way to select them. You can't select them by clicking to the back. And again, that's the selection checkbox. And it was pointed out to me by some people that that's very useful to them when they're selecting codes. And you can do the same thing on your verbatims. So if, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my Apply Selected Codes button. I should probably go ahead and deselect all. So to select verbatims, you can turn the selection checkbox on too. That way you can't inadvertently click to select a response. You have to be very specific about where you click to select a response. Some people prefer that, so I wanted to make sure I went over that today because it seems to be helping in some cases. All right. So the right-click menu on this response pane allows us to select responses, and I've encouraged everyone to come in here and right-click on a verbatim and look at the options that you have here. You can select all the same, and you can select all codes in a response. Okay? When you've got responses selected, notice that you've got select all same, and select all codes in selected responses. This is awesome if you have to uncode or get rid of coding for a group of responses that you've returned. You just select them all, then right-click and remove all codes in selected responses. We couldn't do this before, so that's pretty cool. We also have our deselect options, deselect all or deselect all the same. I talked about previous and next selected. But the other things we have are our quality review options. So this little piece is for our quality reviewing. And quality review has kind of stepped to a new level. We can mark our coding as quality reviewed, which is this first option here. Our verbatim is quality reviewed. Translations, transcriptions, and notes can be marked as reviewed. All right? And when you select responses and right-click, this is where you would set quality reviewed. And let me quickly turn on. The coding quality icon is now this little empty bubble in front of the verbatim. So if I now right-click and hit Set Quality Reviewed, you'll notice that that little bubble is checked. Okay? So that's the coding quality reviewed icon. For my verbatim, if my verbatim is quality reviewed, the little text bubble is turned green. I just wanted to make sure I covered that too, because I know a lot of us, we have to quality review a certain percentage before we release something. So the quality reviewed is now indicated by this quality reviewed icon and not by the respondent ID. And I've gone over this in many of my webinars. It's kind of cool that you can change your response settings and you see instantly what you're going to see. I prefer to keep all of my text on the same line, but you might want your verbatim on its own line with the information about the verbatim on a separate line. That's totally up to you. So again, I encourage people to kind of come in here and play around and figure out the view that works by default, and that doesn't mean anything. It's just a visual thing. It doesn't mean that it's not been quality reviewed or it has been. Okay, again, quality reviewed is this little icon here. All right. One other thing that I wanted to make sure I covered today in this overview, because I haven't talked about the code book much at all. While the code book can be locked or unlocked. When the code book is locked, what we can do is we can change our code properties by right-clicking and choosing Code Properties. We can insert a new code. Allows me to insert a new code. And we can also toggle the focus so that we can work on our keyboard. When the focus is toggled, my arrows now let me go through my codes, and when I hit enter, it opens the code. Tab then takes me through the individual. Here's some help. Misspelled, but that's okay. Hit enter, tab to the OK button and hit enter, and boom, it's updated my code. Okay, so I can stay on my keyboard and edit my code book. This is, and again, that's toggle focus. When you toggle the focus off, you're back to normal mode where the arrows and enter and insert and none of those keys work. So I just wanted to make sure I talked about that. You can do that when the code book is locked. You would unlock the code book to move a code around, boom, one at a time. Or if you want to move multiples, you select those that you'd like to move. And I've played with this code book so much. You select the codes that you'd like to move, and then you right-click and hit Move Selection into or below. So in this case, I'm going to move them into my appearance to hairnet. Okay? So we can select codes across nets and move them. That's a little different than anything we've ever done before, but it's so it gives us a lot more control. We can move things a lot quicker than we could previously because, again, we select what we want to move, we right-click where we want to place them, move selection below. Also, in this window, one more thing, Julie, and then we can get to the, or do I need to answer something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Notice that when I have code selected, that I have 4 new tools here. That aren't there when the code book's unlocked, right? So if I want to select my entire code book, I have the option to change color, to renumber, and to change the case. If I hit delete, it'll tell me how many unused codes will be deleted and how many empty nets will be deleted. So this would delete all my unused codes for me instantly. Another thing to note is that in the selection, you have a lot of options here. You can select codes, nets, used codes, unused codes, empty nets, and unused nets. These, again, were all a result of the users group and your input through support and training sessions of things that you'd like to be able to select here. All right. One last thing is sorting. If you want to sort the code book permanently, you can click on Sort and sort by input ID, output ID, description, or frequency. So that's kind of my overview. It's a lot, I know. So, Julie, do we have any questions?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay.
I
thought we might.
I know. We're getting a lot of questions about shared code books. So, when people use the term share and unshare, I'm not sure exactly. There's a couple connotations there, Laura. So what I'd like you to show them is the actual. How do you display shared code books in Ascribe, as well as the idea of actually unsharing a code book, what they need to be doing for that?
So first of all, to unshare a code book, and I'll just start. I'm back on the questions page. And you have this Choose Columns option on the questions page, and you can show your shared questions. Okay? When you're showing your shared questions, you can click on that shared questions column, and notice you've got a little unshare option right here. For me, that's the easiest way to unshare a code book. Okay? We can also do it in the Copy Share Manager, but I'm not going to get into the Copy Share Manager today because that in itself is another 15 minutes. So turn on your shared questions, you click here, you hit unshare, and what it will do is remove Q11 from my shared group here. And I can go ahead and show that. So now Q11 is no longer shared with 11_1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So that's how we unshare. When we're in Ascribe Coder, we have an option. We have an option that when we're starting, we want to include questions from the current study that share the code book. And here you can say you want to include the open ends that share the codebook, the other specifies the closed ends that share the codebook. Okay? In this case, I've got all 3 selected. So I'm automatically, when I click on my From Shared Codebook icon, I'm automatically going to have all of my questions showing here. Okay? I hit OK. And then, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show my question IDs and my, yeah, there we go. All right. And now I search, and my last search was actually for static, and those aren't going to, that's not going to come up. So I hit go. And it's going to bring up responses from Q11 under bar 1 through Q11 under bar 5. You can see that here. If I want to say, you know what, I don't want to see 5, and I don't want to see 2, and hit OK, hit search again. Now I'm not going to see the responses from 5 and 2, and you'll notice that this number changes. Okay, so let me bring those back. Let's bring back 2 and 5. Hit OK, do another search so that that sticks. Now I'm showing 300, I've got a total of 385 responses. Total of 385 responses in my base. Okay, so this is the From Shared Codebook icon. It allows us to pick 1, 2, 3, or any combination of shared codebooks from this particular study. But if this codebook has been shared across multiple studies, every study where this codebook is shared will be showing up here, and we will be able to bring up responses across studies as well. All right, Julie, does that answer any of the questions?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I believe that takes care of that.
Okay.
Now, can you talk about copying and paste a code frame in? Just a quick demo.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to, I'm not going to demo it, but I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
If you want to copy and paste a codebook in, you have to unlock the codebook, right-click, and choose Paste, and you'll paste that codebook in right here and hit Show, and it'll show the codes as they would appear. So you have to unlock the codebook, right-click, and hit Paste to copy and paste codebooks in. All right?
Okay. Yes. Now, can you talk about swapping codes?
Yes, and I wanted to do that anyway, so I'm glad you said that. So if I want, let me just apply a few codes here real quick. And okay. If I decide I want to swap codes, I can actually select the codes I want to swap and then pull the code that I want to replace or swap it with over to one of those that I've selected, and it'll say swap. I'll hit swap codes. There we go. This works. This actually works for different codes. So notice in this case, I've got Solo, Glad, 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 Store Brand, and Dixie selected, but I'm going to replace them all with, what am I going to replace? I'll replace them all with other Store Brand. I just drag from the codebook to one of the selected codes, and it's going to swap all of those for me. Okay, so that's how swap works.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk about renumbering? And the question was, how do you renumber the whole code book, but can you also just renumber a net?
Yeah. So to renumber the whole code book, you're going to right-click on the code book node, hit Select Descendants, and you're going to choose what you want to renumber. You can renumber all. All of them are selected, and then I'm going to deselect. If I just want to renumber my nets, then I'm going to just choose nets. Okay. And then I'm going to deselect, right-click, and this time I want to maybe just renumber my codes. And notice that applies also for changing color and changing case. Okay, so if I want to make these all uppercase, they're now all uppercase. First letter capital, lowercase, title case. Okay, that's how the renumber works as well. And you can select by using the Select Descendants, or you can go through and individually select as well. Okay? And then when you choose Renumber, you get to choose whether you just want to renumber the blanks, if you want to renumber the input, the output ID, and your start, and all that good stuff. That's, something we're very familiar with. But basically, to renumber, you do have to select things. Today, in review responses, we just right-click and hit renumber, but we don't have as much. What we wanted to be able to do was pick the individual codes that we wanted to renumber. If we only wanted to renumber 10, we wanted to be able to select those and renumber them. So that's why we first have to select something before we renumber. Okay, does that answer that one?
Yes, yes. Now,
okay.
I've got another question for you here, Laura. Let's say that you have a large number of responses and you are wanting to use that search any function to see all of the responses that have been given a code. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any way to see more than 1,000 responses at a time?
No.
Okay.
No. We cannot see more than 1,000 responses at a time. Since I unshared that code book, I don't have an example of that right now. I should have thought about that before I unshared that Q7, or no, sorry, Q11 from the rest of them. Let me just see real quick. But no, we don't.
I mean,
we can only show. I was going to see if I've got one here. No, I don't. We can only show 1,000 responses at a time. But when you're showing 1,000 responses at a time, or when you're showing more than 1,000 responses, the code duplicate still works just as it did previously. And I would like to hear more about that if somebody wants to. If we want to set up a call to talk about it, so I can understand more what the importance of showing more than 1,000. The reason we set it to 1,000 is so that things come up quicker. But you know, again, we're open to talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think that's sufficient, Laura.
Okay.
Okay. Next question is, can you copy part of a verbatim and insert it on the code frame?
Okay, so what we've done there, if you copy part of the verbatim, say I want Giant's food in the code book, what I do is highlight it, right-click, insert code, and Giant food populates that description field. Hit OK, so now I have Giant food. If I want well-known product, I highlight well-known product, right-click, insert code, well-known product, hit OK. Now, the issue with this is no matter what you highlight, when you go to insert a code, it's going to populate your field with the last thing you've highlighted. Even if it's something in an email or anything, you know, something on the internet or something like that, it's going to insert that. That's important because what we found is that sometimes people have selected like a whole lot of information. So the best thing to do if you do that is you can hit Control-A to select all and delete to clear that description field. And I think in IE you actually have a little clear button on that on the text boxes now. But yeah, so it is one of the first things that one of our clients asked us for. Okay.
Yes. Next question is, Laura, is there a way, if you're dealing with foreign language and translations, to just show the translations and not the foreign text? No, there's not.
Well, I guess there is, but you would have to go back and change. Okay. One thing that we've requested is the ability, so you'll notice even though verbatim isn't toggled here, that my verbatim is showing, okay, which is currently set as my coding source. My verbatim is my coding source, okay? If I go and change my coding source at the question level, so if at the question level I change my coding source to transcription, that's what would be showing as my coding source, okay? A lot of us don't like to do that, but today in Ascribe Coder, if you don't change the coding source, you're always still going to see that original verbatim field. Again, it's a question that we've asked before. I'm sorry, a question we've asked before. It's something we have on the developers list of things to look at. What else, Julie?
Okay, I'm not sure that I understand this question. Someone asked why.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
It's 10:15 now.
Okay.
Okay. We can entertain questions. If people want to stay around, that's fine. We can entertain questions for about 5 more minutes. But then we're going to have to go, and what we'll have to do, these questions are saved so we can address them individually. Are there a couple of questions that would be most helpful?
Well,
or one?
Can we go to the the duplicate code books and show how to bring codes over from a code book? Is that too complicated?
Yeah, I don't want to do that right now.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine.
You know what? Okay, fine, whatever. Okay, so dual code books allows us to search for code books that have certain codes in them. So if I want to find a code book that has static in it, I can search for a code book that has static in it. Let's say that for some reason I now have to add some nets or something to this code book. What it's going to do is bring up all the code books that have the word static in the code description or in the net description. So in this case, this code book has 72 codes total, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them that have the word static in them. Okay, if I want to look at this code book, I can click on this link and it will show me my code book. There we go. If I say yes, I want to use this code book, or if I want to use this code book to build my other code book, I bring it up over here on the left side of the screen. What you're looking at here, just real quickly, are 2 code book editors sitting side by side. This is my original question, or my original code book for my question. This one is actually a code book that I can pull codes from. Okay, so if I need to add an appearance to hair code net to my brand's code book, what I will do is copy that appearance to hair net or subnet. I need to unlock my code book, and then I've got paste. I can paste into or below. In this case, I'm going to paste my appearance to hair subnet below my store brand's net. So that allows me to bring codes from one code book to another, net by net, or just a couple of codes. This is really just useful when you need to combine code books or you know, grab some codes from this, grab some codes from that. If you're going to copy a code book from another study, it's still easier to use the questions page and use the copy code book from. Okay? I just want to make sure. I don't like to talk about dual code books without talking about copy code book from first or in the copy share manager. That's kind of why I was hesitant, but I did want to go ahead and show that. Okay. What else, Julie?
Okay. Now this is a different question about actually loading data, and I think that doesn't, the way you load data doesn't change.
No.
Here,
right?
So I will answer that question.
Okay.
But I think that about covers it, Laura.
Oh, good. Okay. And so just before I end, I hope everybody is in Ascribe Coder. I hope you're sharing the information that you're learning here with your colleagues, with your friends. Please continue to give us feedback via support about Ascribe Coder. If you need to go to review responses or edit the code book or the single response coder interface, let us know why. And also, like I said, we're happy to entertain all of your thoughts about Ascribe Coder. Remember that currently we do plan to remove review responses, the single response coder interface, and edit the code book in June of this year. Thanks so much for your time today. I'm grateful that you're all taking the time to look into Ascribe Coder, and I will have those webinars for March published soon. Have a great day.